کهکشان مقاومت ایران 1403 سومین روز اجلاس کهکشان مقاومت ایران در پاریس. ایران، جنایت علیه بشریت و محاکمه آمران و عاملان 11 تیر 1403 سخنرانی شخصیتهای سیاسی و حقوقی، وکلا و قضات، کارشناسان ویژه ملل متحد و قانونگذاران از کشورهای مختلف جهان.
سخنرانی‌های دکتر دینوسپوراس، گزارشگر ویژه سازمان ملل در مورد حق سلامت 2014 تا 2020، ائولو کازاکا، نماینده پیشین پارلمان اروپا، دکتر خوان گارسس، حقوقدان برجسته بین المللی، مشاور سالوادور آلنده، رئیس جمهور فقید شیلی.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct privilege to introduce to you our next speaker, Mr. Danios Pouras, who is the esteemed former UN Special Rapporteur on the right to health. Mr. Pouras's unwavering dedication to advancing global health rights and advocating for equitable healthcare has set a remarkable standard in the field.
دکتر دینوسپوراس، گزارشگر ویژه سازمان ملل در مورد حق سلامت 2014 تا 2020. زمان آن رسیده است که کشورهای عضو سازمان ملل متحد به سرعت تحقیقاتی را در مورد قتل عام 67 و ناپدید شدنهای اجباری در ایران ایجاد کنند. کشورهای عضو سازمان ملل باید حق مشروع مردم ایران را برای مطالبه تغییر و دفاع از خود در برابر اقدامات بیرحمانه نیروهای امنیتی رژیم ایران به رسمیت بشناسد.
Dear Iranian friends and friends of free democratic Iran, I am joining this summit and contributing to diversity of expert views with my expertise and experience in the field of health and human rights as a medical doctor, human rights advocate, and former UN Special Rapporteur on the right to physical and mental health. Human rights, as we know, and as we need to remind to others, especially to the people in power, are indivisible and interdependent. The best what has been achieved by global community was a global post-World War II agreement on universal human rights principles. All human rights are equally important. There should be no hierarchies within human rights. Right to health is, as we know, economic social right. However, equally important for health is to protect civil and political rights, freedoms. Regimes, authoritarian, totalitarian regimes, they tend to ignore this. And the physical and mental health of everyone may seriously suffer when civil and political rights of people are violated. Sadly, this happens now for many years in Iran. Global community needs to do more to address this tragedy of Iranians. And first of all, this is about holding Iranian authorities accountable for atrocities, including the 1988 massacre. Women's rights, children's rights, rights of many groups in vulnerable situation are brutally violated. But especially brutal is the regime to those courageous people who stand out and seek justice. When I was UN Special Rapporteur, I have raised the case of political prisoner Ms. Mariam Akbari Monferret, in special procedures joint letter with the then Special Rapporteur on Iran, addressed to the Iranian authorities back in November 2016. Mariam is a young mother of 3 daughters who is currently serving the final year of her 15-year sentence. She is being kept in prison simply because she previously filed an official complaint with the Iranian judiciary to explain why her older brother and sister were executed during the 1988 massacre. The prison authorities have told her that she will not be released at the end of her sentence unless she formally renounces her call for justice. Last summer, she was put before new bogus trials and sentenced to additional 3 years in prison. So in October, when her original sentence expires, she will not be released. During this time, she has serious medical complications, but she has been denied access to outside hospital as a means to force her to cooperate. And many, many other such stories we know and we heard today and the 2 days before. There is increasing evidence about horrible effects of the systematic oppression, such as staggering increase in executions, noting the highest number in 8 years, recording in 2023 with more than 850 executions, including women, juvenile offenders, even a child. 1,877 people were executed during Ibrahim Rais's shortened tenure alone. We know about ongoing suppression of the 2022 uprising. 750 protesters, including dozens of women and children, were shot and killed by the security forces. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights abuses, when they are committed with impunity and when there is no accountability, they do proliferate and may have very different faces. I would like to add one more example. This is from my profession of human rights violation in Iran. I will mention now one such issue, which is abuse of psychiatry. Regrettably, abuse of psychiatry is increasingly happening in Iran. For example, civil disobedience when young people protest in the streets is labeled as antisocial personality disorder. Abuse of psychiatry for political and religious reasons could have a long-lasting negative consequences. So it's very sad that these violations of human rights are done in the name of medicine and psychiatry, and doctors are forced. This is a phenomenon of so-called dual loyalty, when doctors are forced or agree to do harm to their patients. These and many other violations of human rights in Iran, many of them amounting to torture and killings of innocent people, must stop. And for these mechanisms to ensure accountability must be in place. I fully, therefore, support conclusions and recommendations of the recent landmark report of the Special Rapporteur on Iran, Professor Javed Rahman. I'm very proud of my colleague. It is high time that the UN member states urgently establish an inquiry into 1988 mass executions and enforced disappearance in Iran. The Human Rights Council should also support the pursuit of accountability for Iranian officials who have committed major crimes that violate international law, such as 1988 massacre and the brutal crackdowns on previous and current protests. Additionally, it should recognize the legitimate right of the Iranian people to demand change and defend themselves against the brutal actions of the security forces. In conclusion, I would like to express my solidarity to the families in Iran who seek accountability and justice. And you need to know that for millions of people, your struggle and courage is a source of inspiration for millions of people in the world. Thank you very much.
gentlemen, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce to you our next speaker, Paulo Kazaka, a former Portuguese member of the European Parliament and a steadfast friend and supporter of the Iranian people, the Iranian resistance and the freedom fighters of Ashraf, and an individual who I know has a great many fans in this room. Please join me in welcoming Paulo Kazaka.
پائولو کازاکا، نماینده پیشین پارلمان اروپا. امروز مسئله حقوق بشر تبدیل به موضوع اصلی ما شده است. من فکر می کنم که این یک مسئله بنیادی است. اکنون یک ستون بنیادی ساخته شده توسط گزارشگران ویژه سازمان ملل وجود دارد. این مکانیزم و این گزارشگران ویژه را باید حمایت کنیم.
Dear Madam Rajavi, dear speakers, personalities, dear Iranians, those who are there in the back, those who are in Ashraf 3, thank you very much for allowing me once again to be among you. If I do well recall, it's the 21st time. From 2003, in I think 17th of June, when we were gathered here for the first time to celebrate the release, the freedom of Madam Rajavi, that had been in an absolutely inadmissible process, being victim of a trade between the Iranian fascist authorities and the French government. And this was perhaps the human rights campaign I've ever been more involved, heart and soul, in my life. I was absolutely outraged. I was in the European Parliament and I could not stop till I got the news. And this was one of the happiest moments of my life. And I'm very, very happy that you are there, that the Iranian people can count with you, and you will coronate the liberation of the Iranian people. And the Iranian people deserve And the Iranian people deserve all the applause for its courage to resist the Iranian fascism. Lastly, by ignoring the presidential charade, we have to praise fundamentally the prisoners. And I know that the prisoners of the wards 4th, 6th, and 8th of Evin prison, they refused to participate in the charade, and they are now being targeted by the authorities with reprisals. This today, we are dominated by the legal issue, the human rights. I created an association of human rights. From the very start, even before politics, I was very much involved in human rights at the time in Amnesty International. I do think it is a fundamental issue. I think that we have to understand something, that there is an institutional pillar made by the special rapporteurs of the United Nations, a mechanism that was reintroduced in 2011 that is really the crux of the matter. I think this is the mechanism and the people we have to support. I think that Iran was very fortunate to have had 3 outstanding rapporteurs. Ahmad Said, that was someone from the Maldives, a fantastic person. Asna Jahangir, I had the opportunity of knowing her. She died in very, tragic circumstances, and she interrupted her mandate. I think we should remember her as one of the bravest defenders of the Iran human rights. We have Javad Rahman, who have been reported here that he has had the courage, the guts to denounce the genocide of '88. And this is absolutely outstanding. But it exists, and it is an outstanding work. And so this pillar is fundamental. It has to be defended. It has to be continued, because it will be, in my opinion, the most important pillar to confront from the outside the regime of Tehran. But just a small word to say that I am an economist by profession, although I have been most of my life connected with politics and human rights, as a matter of fact. And regarding economics, I think that we have to see something that is very important, which is the logic of outsourcing of the Iranian regime, both of terrorism. They now hire criminal drug gangs to go and to shoot their opponents. They have been doing lately this, as we know, with our dear colleague Alejo Vidal Quadras, and also for the disinformation campaign. They do the same thing. They hire pseudo-independent organizations with murky financing based in the Cayman Islands and elsewhere to tarnish the image of the Iranian opposition. And we have to get a good look at this. We have to be prepared to have this struggle as well. We have to be prepared. And we have to say that whatever they will try, whatever the pseudo-elections, we will overcome, we will win, we will get an Iran free. Thank you very much.